Welcome back to Mission Innovation, Becoming a Frontier Agency. I'm Francis Rose. The federal government's 2025 Artificial Intelligence Use Case Inventory shows a huge jump from the 2024 inventory. That 2024 list detailed more than 1,700 use cases. Jeneen Iwugo is Deputy Director for the Center for Program Integrity at the Centers for Medicare Medicaid. Nelli Babayan is AI Director of U.S. Federal at Microsoft. Ladies, welcome. It's great to have you on the program. I want to start with you, Jeneen. What do you do at CMS to ascertain data integrity and governance to make sure that the data that goes into the AI applications that you use gives you data and information that you can depend on to make decisions?
So I'll start by saying that at CMS, our Chief Information Officer and our Chief Data Officer have gone through tremendous strides to make sure that we have high quality data. Data analysis is garbage in, garbage out. If we don't have good data, what we're able to do with it is not going to be as reliable or as strong as we need it to be. So we work very hard to make sure that we have high quality data and that we make that data available to our data analytics teams and to our contractors. We recently had a event called the Chili Cook-Off. And we were lucky enough to be able to provide a limited data set to the contestants in that competition so that they could test their analytic capabilities using real data, which gave us much better results that we'll actually be able to use within the agency.
You anticipated my question, which is what did you learn from that and how will that improve the way that you go about operations?
Well, what we learned is that the more data we give them, the more data we make available, the better results that we get back. In the program integrity space, having quality data is very important. Making sure that you're able to look at a wide array of data sets is really important to doing the important work that we do. So,
Nelli, welcome. It's great to see you again. Thanks for being on the program today. A lot of agencies for a long time focused so much on the integrity of their data, cleaning it up, standardizing, and so on. They kind of had a state of paralysis as far as actually using it. What's the right balance that you've seen organizations across government strike to be able to actually move out with using data to help make decisions?
Thank you, Francis, and great to be back. Absolutely, you're right. There's so much importance when we're talking about data governance, right? Data governance, data provenance, and earlier we heard that data ontology are very important when we are on that journey for implementing AI successfully and securely. And I'm very glad to hear what Jeneen mentioned about CMS doing all that amazing work and cleaning and providing quality data. But also what's important is not to be stuck in that pilot of proof of concept paralysis, but actually understand what use cases are important, what scenarios are high value importance to the mission, to your organization, to try those, test and evaluate, understand what are those success criteria that we are striving towards when we're talking about the proof of concept, and then move from those generalized to a larger set of use cases, iterate on them, and expand to production and expand to the entire organization. So I came to Microsoft and to industry from academic background, and the understanding really is that you understand the big picture, but you also narrow down to smaller set of use cases. You iterate fast, you fail fast if necessary, learn from that, and then go into expansion of more meaningful and secure implementation of AI with quality data.
The key point, or one key point that you made there, is the emphasis on use cases. And I think of all of the kind of the technology phenomena that I've seen over the years that I've been talking to people in the federal government, artificial intelligence seems to be the one that the agencies have done the best with at tying to use cases instead of saying, let's just try this because it's the newest thing, a cool thing, whatever. What's the key to identifying use cases that are appropriate for AI and then making sure that the data is ready to do the things that you and Jeneen have talked about?
I talk to many customers across the federal spectrum, right? And some of them have a handful of use cases in mind, and the other ones maybe have 200 and 300 use cases. Even this is a real thing I heard. I think it's very important to prioritize those use cases because nobody has the staff or the finances to do 300 proof of concepts. So how do we prioritize those use cases? Think about the importance to the mission. How important this use case is for your mission, right? And how much time that is going to take to implement that use case? What's the feasibility of implementing that use case? What are the success criteria? And then it's very important to also consider the risk. And it's not only the risk of in terms of security and safety, but also the risk of not implementing AI and falling behind.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all the different criteria that we can think about when we are prioritizing use cases and understanding what the ROI is. And the ROI is not necessarily financial only, but it can be understood as, for example, time saved when making decisions. How well you are serving your customers, in this case, the citizens, right, the American citizens. So that all of that in combination is helping us to understand what are those use cases that we need to prioritize. And it's very important to not do that knee-jerk reaction and start implementing AI, but actually very meaningfully think about how is this going to help my organization and my mission to advance and perform even better than we used to.
We will talk more about security later in the program, Nelli, for sure. But Jeneen, you were nodding very enthusiastically when Nelli was talking about using this data and the applications, measuring ROI on saving time for customers. Why did that resonate with you so much?
Well, so recently, the Center for Program Integrity and our program integrity efforts across CMS, we did an analysis of our efforts in 2024 and determined that we had a 14-to-1 ROI. So not only am I very proud of that, it shows that we use the right risk register to make sure that we were dedicating our resources in the places that gave us the biggest payoff.
What did you do to get to that, and so that you wound up with that result? Because that strikes me that there are other people who would like to achieve the same result.
Well, we do a pretty sophisticated data analysis of the 4 to 5 million claims that we get every day to determine how much is at risk with each provider that we're looking at. The suspicious behavior, there's a lot of Medicare fraud, there's a lot of healthcare fraud in the industry. And so we need to focus our resources in the places that are going to give us the biggest bang. So we're looking at outlier behavior, we're looking at the number of dollars and claims that have been submitted to us for payment. And we're looking for things that look abnormal. And so sometimes those abnormalities can be explained and they're legitimate, and sometimes they're not. The number of outlier or suspicious things that pile on top of each other lets you know that this is a high risk either provider or a high risk situation, and we should look at that more closely.
And from a risk management perspective, Nelli, it strikes me that's the real force multiplier here. Is it's almost, I think about it in my brain as laying layers of graph paper on top of each other, and you see that, oh, in this particular spot there are dots all the way down, so that's something we could look at. Is that, maybe not in that simplistic of a manner, but is that the way that these applications are working in the way that Jeneen is talking about?
Yes, in a way. And that is why when we're talking to our customers within the federal space and also our commercial customers, when we're talking about AI, AI is not just about the models, right? We need to abstract us from this or that model, because the model that is popular today is going to be obsolete next week. That's how fast they come to market. What we need to think about is a comprehensive platform and the secure platform where you can choose from a multitude of models that are suitable for your specific use case, and a platform that allows you not just to choose those models, but to securely bring in your data, then iterate on your use case, evaluate your use case, and then continuously monitor the deployment of that use case so that you can continue to improve. And then it can help you manage the life cycle of that use case and that application and generalize to other scenarios so you don't reinvent the wheel every time. So that the idea of having that security baked in and the controls and risk management baked into that larger comprehensive platform is how we at Microsoft are also approaching AI implementation.
Jeneen, as you describe what you're up against, it sounds like you just have an avalanche of stuff that's coming in every single day, every single hour. How do you sort through it to make sure that this is information that is meaningful for us to be able to use to help mitigate fraud or whatever the mission aspect is that you're going for. And this is background noise that we don't really need to pay any attention to.
So like Nelli said, we're using models, and at CMS, our models are based off of known entities, known factors, situations from the past where we've had successful investigations, or kind of like when you look at Netflix and they say, you like this show the last time you watched it, you watched the entire series.
Yeah.
We're going to propose another one that's just like that. We use models in that way, but we also use models to look at new, evolving schemes that maybe cutting edge. Something new is happening in the fraud arena that we haven't seen before, and we use a model to say, this is something that we should look at because we're seeing this in different pockets. Within the Center for Program Integrity, in the last year, we launched something called the Fraud War Room, which brought together law enforcement, investigators, and data analysts into one room. They met for 2 hours, 2 days a week. That was not popular. But it kind of collapsed what was previously a very linear process into a short snippet of time where those people were able to look at a high-risk case, make a decision, and move it on, and suspend payment. And so in 2025, the Fraud War Room was successful in suspending $1.8 billion.
Wow.
That meant that we had our analytics right. That meant that we had the risk register right. And it meant that we had the right people in the room. So building on that model, of course, the war room is a sustained thing now that we will continue. But looking for opportunities like that where you can take something that's more linear, that takes more time, that uses more people, applying AI onto it to figure out how you can supercharge it, make it run faster, better, smarter, faster, using the same resources will give you a better output. And then you can use those resources and retool them for something else.
Was the process of getting the right people into that war room as simple as, here's the end-to-end, we have the information here, and this is the person who needs it to be able to go out and mitigate this case, prosecute the case, catch the bad guys, or whatever the end result is that you're going for? Or was there more to it than that? Was it more than just listing out, here are all the folks that might have to touch this at some point?
Well, we started with a very small team of people because we were nervous about the definition of time. But then once the war room started to get traction, our numbers started to go up. People said, well, look, this is really valuable. This is not a waste of my time.
Right.
And I know this other person who could really benefit from being here. And if they were in the room, we could add their knowledge, skills, and then their role to this schematic, and then we can capitalize on that. So when it was all over, I have people now asking to be a part of it, not telling me that it's a waste of their time. And so now we have a rotation where we don't, have the same people dedicated all the time. But if people want to stay, it's fine.
When you have people asking you to come to the 2-hour meeting, I imagine you're doing something
that is a beautiful thing.
Really,
it's a
really
beautiful
right.
thing. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
This avalanche of information that organizations like CMS have, Nelli, when somebody's looking at it and starts to feel like we just are on data overload, what's the solution, or what's at least the first step or two to take to try to get out of that and try to wrap your arms around what you have?
I know a lot of the agencies, a lot of organizations, they're facing that avalanche of information, overload of information. You spend hours and hours sifting through different types of data, whether it's structured data or unstructured data. And this is when at least the simple use cases of summarization, natural language queries, and an AI-enhanced search come very handy, because those can help you with making sense of that data, consolidating that data from different sources, different data types, and then creating relevant points between those data types. So you can, when you are searching for information through that raw data, then you can find the right one. I can actually bring an example from one of our customers that we've been working with. They have jumped on this data governance train early on, understanding that they need to get their data in order. They need to clean the data, as also Jeneen mentioned before, understand the provenance of the data, understand who has access to that data, prepare that data for the era of AI. And that one of those customers is, for example, the Hanford site, which is one of the DOE sites that is tasked with nuclear cleanup. Right? And they have a very important mission, very important task, and they have partnered with our team to modernize their data platform, to bring everything into that more modern consolidated version. So now that data is also ready for AI, and then they can not face that overload of information, but actually meaningfully use AI to find the right data when needed.
I want to go back to that war room concept, Jeneen, because I imagine there are people watching this who are going, I want to do that. What did you learn in that process that you didn't know when you started that you would tell somebody else, make sure you do this, or make sure you try this at the beginning instead of when we figured it out later on in the process?
So I will say, honestly, this is not the first time that this has been tried. So within within our center, we've tried other configurations of bringing people together, all being in one space, talking about a suite of cases. But the output of that was then plugged into like the normal way of doing business. So we collapsed one part of the process and then put it back into the machine, which slowed everything down. In government, sometimes things move slower than we would like for them to. But with the war room, we unleashed really our data team to help us make decisions faster. And we took on more risk ourselves. So previously, after we would do one of these intensive reviews, we would do a whole investigation and do, interviews and do all this stuff. We trusted the data because we had powerful analytics. We leveraged AI. We knew when you have like 7 factors piled on top of each other, this is kind of a no-brainer. Like we need to really call somebody. And if we do need to call somebody, if we find out that we made a mistake, there's a process for appealing that mistake. So taking on a little bit more risk ourselves had tremendous rewards for us. And we let our team know that we are here to try fail fast. Let's all embrace the fail fast concept. And then if we need to reset, we reset. So we actually started this as a pilot. Was a 6-week pilot. It was moderately successful after 6 weeks. We brought the team in, everybody who participated in that 6 week, we took their feedback. We said, what could we do better? Who's not here? Who should be here? What tweaks should we make? How else can we unleash you? What else should we test and try? And then we just ran with it. And so after that pilot, we were wildly successful, even more successful than we were on the front end, because we listened to our team and we evolved. And then we cut out some more red tape. After that step in the process. So,
Jeneen, congratulations on your success. Thanks for being here today, Nelli. It's great to see you again. Thanks for joining me.